The gravel road, long neglected, gnashed under the tires of my borrowed sedan, spitting up dust like a dry cough. My inheritance, this house, lay shrouded in a grove of skeletal oaks, their branches clawing at the bruised twilight sky. It was a place where light seemed to surrender, where silence itself felt weighted. I had never understood my grandmother, a woman I knew only through hushed family whispers and the occasional, unsettling greeting card. Her death, sudden and cloaked in a fog of speculation, had only deepened the chasm of my ignorance. Now, I was here, a reluctant inheritor of her solitude, driven by a strange blend of obligation and a morbid curiosity I barely acknowledged. A wave of stagnant air, thick with the scent of aged paper, beeswax, and something else, something metallic and faintly sweet, like forgotten blood oranges, washed over me. My gaze, accustomed to the sparse, clean lines of my own apartment, was immediately overwhelmed. Every wall, every available surface, seemed to host a mirror. Ornate frames, gilded and tarnished, carved with serpents and forgotten deities, held panes of glass that reflected and re-reflected the gloom. They were of every size and shape, colossal, floor-to-ceiling behemoths in the main hall, small, oval vanity mirrors on dusty side tables, long, narrow slivers beside doorframes. Their sheer multitude was suffocating, a dizzying hall of fractured realities. My own reflection, a pale, tired stranger, stared back at me from dozens of angles, each seeming slightly off, a subtle distortion in the curve of a cheek, an unsettling shift in the light in my eyes. I felt as though I had walked into a kaleidoscope of myself, 1,000 versions of Cole, none quite right. I moved through the echoing foyer, my footsteps hushed by thick, faded rugs. Each room presented a new panorama of reflective surfaces. In one, a grand dining hall, a dozen antique mirrors lined the walls, mirroring the long, empty table set for a phantom feast. I paused, turned sharply, but the reflection was still, mundane, reflecting only the room and my own bewildered face. It was nothing, I told myself, just the play of dim light, the dust motes dancing in the meager glow filtering through grimy windows. My grandmother's study, a cramped room overflowing with leather-bound books and peculiar knickknacks, felt like the heart of the house's strangeness. I avoided its gaze, my eyes scanning the heavy oak desk. Tucked beneath a stack of brittle ledgers, I found them, a collection of small, leather-bound journals, their pages yellowed and fragile. Her distinct, spidery script filled them, growing increasingly agitated in later entries. "They watch," one passage declared, her handwriting slanting wildly. "Always watching. Not through the glass, but from within it. They show me things. But they demand a price. The reflections twist. I see her, sometimes. The other. My own face, but not mine. She waits for me to truly see her. To let her out." My breath hitched. My grandmother hadn't been merely eccentric, he had been consumed. The mirrors were not just objects to her, they were something else. The house, which had merely felt old and neglected, now pulsed with a new, unsettling energy. Needing air, needing to escape the suffocating weight of her words, I pushed open a back door that led to a small, overgrown yard. The last vestiges of daylight bled from the sky, painting the clouds in shades of bruised purple and faded orange. Beyond the tangled rose bushes, through a gap in the ancient fence, I saw it, a playground at dusk with empty swings moving. The chains creaked, a mournful, rhythmic sound, as if an invisible child swayed on the seats. No wind stirred the leaves around me, yet the swings moved, slowly, steadily, a silent, unsettling dance against the encroaching night. I turned back to the house, the journals clutched in my hand, and my gaze drifted towards the largest mirror in the study, the one with the grotesque faces. For a split second, it wasn't my reflection I saw. My heart hammered, a frantic drum against my ribs. It had been nothing, my mind screamed, a trick of the fading light, an exhausted hallucination. Something had stirred in the glass, and it had seen me. My fingers, still smudged with the dust of my grandmother's journal, traced the chilling words. They watch. They wait. A shiver, not of cold but of creeping dread, began to unfurl within me. I tried to rationalize it, to dismiss the entries as the ramblings of an old woman consumed by her own eccentricities. The air in the study felt heavy, thick with the scent of aged paper and something else, something metallic and faint, like distant rain on rusted iron. My mind, a stubborn fortress of logic, attempted to erect its walls against the rising tide of unease. But the house, it seemed, had other plans. Later that evening, as twilight bled through the tall windows, painting the polished floors in hues of bruised violet, I found myself drawn to the grand hallway. The mirrors, usually silent observers, now seemed to hum with a low, almost imperceptible thrum. I caught my reflection in a towering cheval glass, its gilded frame adorned with intricate, coiling vines. For a fleeting moment, my eyes in the reflection seemed to deepen, to hold an ancient, knowing sorrow that was not my own. I blinked, and the illusion vanished, leaving only my own bewildered gaze. A trick of the light, I decided, a symptom of an overwrought imagination. At first, they were indistinct, a rustling of leaves in a windless room, the murmur of a distant crowd. Then, they sharpened, coalescing into a faint, sibilant sound that seemed to emanate from the very glass of the mirrors. They spoke my name, a drawn-out, caressing sound that raised gooseflesh on my arms. Cole. The voice was neither male nor female, but something liminal, like the space between waking and dreaming. It pulled at the edges of my thoughts, a subtle current tugging me towards the reflective surfaces. I found myself standing before a large, oval mirror in the parlor, its silvered surface cloudy with age. My reflection stared back, but it was not quite right. My mouth was wider, stretched into a rictus of silent despair, my hair matted and damp. My breath caught in my throat. I stumbled back, my heart now a frantic drum against my ribs, the rational walls of my mind crumbling. This was not imagination. This was an intrusion. Driven by a desperate need for answers, I began to search. My grandmother's journal was a key, but it was incomplete, cryptic. There had to be more. I scoured the dusty attic, unearthing forgotten trunks and boxes filled with the detritus of a long life. Among yellowed lace and brittle photographs, I found it, a collection of newspaper clippings, brittle with age, detailing local disappearances from decades past. Further digging led me to an old, leather-bound family history, tucked away in a hidden compartment beneath a loose floorboard in the library. I read of it packed with the unseen, a guardian of the threshold, and a mirror that drinks the light. The pieces clicked into a terrifying mosaic. My grandmother hadn't been paranoid, he had been a guardian, perhaps even a victim, bound by an ancient agreement to contain something within these walls. The mirrors were not just reflections, they were conduits, prisons, and hungry eyes. An entity, ancient and malevolent, was not merely trapped, but waiting. Release. Freedom. Our time. They seemed to emanate from everywhere, yet nowhere, twisting my thoughts, subtly guiding my gaze. It was different from the others, its surface seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. As I approached it, a vision bloomed within its depths, not a reflection of myself, but a scene entirely alien, a playground at dusk with empty swings moving, their chains creaking faintly in the spectral breeze. It was a place of innocence corrupted, a tableau of profound desolation. The entity was not just watching, it was reaching, its tendrils snaking into the very core of my will. It wanted me to open the way. They watch. I tried to rationalize it, to dismiss the entries as the ramblings of an old woman consumed by her own eccentricities, but the air in the study thickened, pressing against my skin. I flipped the brittle pages, searching for context, for an explanation beyond the cryptic warnings. Tucked into the back, a loose leaf, brittle as autumn foliage, fluttered out. It was not my grandmother's elegant script, but an older, faded hand, perhaps her own grandmother's. A crude sketch adorned the top, a stylized eye reflected in a cracked looking-glass, surrounded by a swirling, indistinct mass. Beneath it, a single, horrifying sentence stood out, stark and undeniable: the line is its tether, the glass, its hunger. My breath hitched. The line. My family. My inheritance. The mirrors, so numerous and omnipresent, were not just decorative, they were the entity's eyes, its conduits, perhaps even its prison, each one a facet of its fractured being. My grandmother hadn't been mad, he had been a guardian, a warder of something ancient and terrible. And now, the responsibility, the curse, was mine. A low thrum began in the room, a vibration that resonated not through the floorboards but through my very bones. The glass of the nearest cheval mirror, an ornate piece with tarnished silver leaf, began to ripple. It was a voice that tasted of dust and forgotten grief. Fear, raw and primal, seized me, but beneath it, a desperate resolve ignited. I would not be its next vessel. I would not succumb. My gaze swept across the room, landing on a heavy iron poker by the dormant fireplace. The choice was clear: destroy the mirrors, shatter the entity's hold, or be consumed. As I raised the poker, the room erupted. Every mirror in the study flared with an inner light, reflecting not the room, but a chaotic tapestry of impossible visions. One showed a desolate, rain-slicked street, another a gnarled, skeletal forest beneath a bruised sky. And in the massive, gilt-framed mirror directly opposite me, the image shifted, coalescing into a playground at dusk with empty swings moving. The swings, their chains groaning faintly, swayed in an unseen breeze, their arcs widening, impossibly high, as if propelled by a spectral child. It pulsed, expanded, attempting to reach out, to draw me in. The temperature plummeted, and a frigid breath ghosted over my neck, raising gooseflesh. Join us, the collective whisper intensified, 1,000 voices clawing at the edges of my sanity. Become one with the reflection. My arm ached, but I held the poker aloft, my knuckles white. The entity was trying to overwhelm me, to make me doubt, to make me yield. This thing fed on isolation, on the echoes of what once was. It had consumed my grandmother, and it would not consume me. With a guttural cry, I brought the poker down, not on the largest mirror, but on a smaller, ornate vanity mirror nearby, one that had seemed particularly active. The glass exploded outward with a deafening crash, shards scattering like glittering dust. A shriek, piercing and inhuman, tore through the room, a sound that felt like it was tearing through the fabric of reality itself. The images in the other mirrors flickered violently, the vision stuttering. The swings in the playground mirror froze, then dissolved into static. I felt a momentary surge of triumph, a desperate hope. One down. I didn't stop. With a frantic, adrenaline-fueled frenzy, I moved from mirror to mirror, each strike accompanied by a fresh shriek, each shattered pane a small victory. The air vibrated with anger and pain. The scent of ozone intensified, burning my nostrils. But I pressed on, a singular, destructive purpose guiding my hands. My chest heaved, my muscles screaming in protest. I stared at the chaos within the mirror, at the last bastion of its malevolent hunger. This was it. The final confrontation. I gripped the poker, its metal slick with sweat, and with every ounce of my remaining strength, I swung. The impact was cataclysmic. A blinding flash of light erupted from the mirror, followed by a sound that was not glass breaking, but something far older, far more profound, a tearing, a rending of the unseen. The frame splintered, the enormous sheet of glass cracking from corner to corner, a spider web of destruction across its surface. The entity's roar was abruptly cut short, replaced by a fading, whimpering echo that seemed to dissipate into the shattered reflections. The air cleared, the acrid scent fading. The room, though littered with glittering shards and splintered wood, felt empty. I had done it. I had shattered its hold. I stood amidst the wreckage, the poker still clutched in my hand, my body trembling, my mind reeling. I had won. But as my gaze fell upon a minute, almost invisible shard of the grand mirror, embedded in the heel of my own boot, a faint, almost imperceptible shimmer caught my eye. And for a fleeting instant, I thought I saw a microscopic reflection, not of the room, but of a single, unblinking eye, watching. Waiting.